Hello and welcome to this time lapse. I set up the still life. It's got going on 3 or 4 months ago now. It's just a little vase that I found in a secondhand shop with some Cape gooseberries. So I'm working on pastel matte paper here. This is the navy blue color. Well, I think they actually call it dark blue. And the size is 24 centimeters by 18 centimeters. So I'm working quite small, not tiny, but still quite small. So my still life I just set up very quick, just a few foam core pieces, and I made like a box with one side of the box missing. So it had a top and two sides basically. And I took a few photographs and I was like, I'm going to use this photo. And off I went. So I mapped in the background using dark blues from Unison. And then I started to work on the vase. Now, I wasn't quite sure how to go about it, but I think this was the best way. Because you've got that pattern, I could have gone in and put this dark blue, which is Sennelier 463, all over the vase. But then I risked the chance of getting the flowers and the motif I want to put on top to not be as bright as I wanted it to. So I decided to work the base of the vase around the flowers, which is quite finicky, but I'm glad I did it this way because this blue can get everywhere. That's Sennelier 463. So you saw me stencil in the vase. Like, it's really important to get the shape of the vase correct. And sometimes if I don't want to faff around with time, all I'll do is I'll cut out the photo reference a bit like a stencil and make sure my lines are correct. It's just something I do. I find it really helpful, and like I said, it saves me loads of time. So starting to work on the actual pattern of this, taking like an ochre color and marking in the shape of the flowers. If you have a look at the reference photograph, you can actually see the gold is all around each of the flower and leaf pattern. So I just mimicked that with a pastel pencil. Because this subject isn't that big, the pastel pencils come in a treat when you want to get finer marks, and they're also really good for first mapping in the basic colors and how the shapes are going to look, and then I go in with pastel sticks because they've got a lot more pigment. But first I like to build in my shapes, generally speaking, with the pastel sticks. So I'm using Unison, Sennelier, Mount Vision, and then, like I said, this blue is a stunning blue that makes up most of the vase, 463 Intense Blue by Sennelier. It's just so punchy, it's so dark, but it's vibrant at the same time. So I'm just doing the reflection. So using some dirty yellows, I guess you'd call them, some sort of yellow ochre colors. So I've got to make sure that I'm getting the light correct. So on the right side of the vase, it's all in shadow. The light is coming directly from the left. So I can't have a very vibrant yellow in this side of the vase. It's going to look odd because this part of the vase is in shadow. So you'll see me bringing in dark browns and even some grey 13 from Unison, which is like a black, but it's like a very, very dark brown. So I've just got to mute out that shadow, that reflection, I should say, from the gooseberry. So adding quite a bit of browns, as I said, dark colors to desaturate it really. You can see I work on that for quite a bit of time. It took a little bit of a struggle to get it correct, as I said, because it really can't be bright because it's sitting in shadow, but I still wanted to include it because it's an interesting little thing to have. You've got this lovely reflection. Ceramic is quite reflective, so it's going to reflect what surrounds it. So just working on the shadow part, making sure I rub all pastel into the paper. As soon as I lay it down, I give it a good old rub just so that I don't have pastel sitting on the surface that can just fall off. You see, here you see me stenciling. Look how easy. I wasn't happy with the shape, so that's an easy way. Stencil, and then it corrects the shape for me. Quick, no struggle, chop, which is always good. I'm quite an impatient person. So I am putting a piece of paper underneath here, just a plain piece of copy of paper so that I don't mess up the layers of pastel that I have underneath. For the gold, I actually used some iridescent pastels from Sennelier. Now, these iridescent pastels are wonderful, but you can get glitter all over the place. You know, the glitter does fall off more so than with a normal pastel stick. So what I would recommend actually, and I didn't for this one, but I have for when I've used the iridescence after doing this one, because they had fallout. And the background is so dark, I don't really want glittery pieces, little specks to be in the background. Spray with fixative. So the fixative I have fallen in love with is the Daly Rowner fixative. Daly Rowney. I can never say that word. Daly Rowney fixative. I'll leave a link in the description below, but it's got such a fine mist. It doesn't actually change the color of the pastel. So I'm very happy with that. As I said, I'll link it down below. But there you've got the vase finished. So much fun. I love creating ceramics. It's one of my favorite things to paint, actually. So I started on the table. This was actually a breadboard that I used because my wooden tables got paint on and all sorts of stuff. So I actually just set up the still life on a wooden board. And for wood, I usually go to Unison's Natural Earth colors. Their Natural Earth range is a great color selection for creating wood, I find. So I used a whole mixture of those in here to get the wood grain. Then started mapping out with my pastel pencils and now building up with the pastel sticks. Now these are the Unison Yellow Green Earth. So the color range Yellow Green Earth is amazing. I think when it comes to painting any sort of leaf or greenery, even fruit like pears, these come in like are invaluable. I absolutely adore. They have such a brilliant, realistic color range. So as I said, that's the Unison Yellow Green Earths. So I went straight to them to fill in these husks, I think they're called. And using the pastel pencils just again to get some shape. I used Caran d'Ache dark green. Then I can't pronounce that green. It's such a hard. It's the darkest green they do basically, and I don't know how to say the word. And then of course raw sienna, olive green 40%, and just building these up with lots of different values so that it doesn't look too flat. Also a mixture of yellow greens and some blue greens in there. You can see there's light, sort of like desaturated minty sort of greens, which you can actually see in the reference photograph. So I put both types of green in there, your yellow greens and your blue greens, and obviously in varying tonal value, lights, darks and midtones to get the volume, to get it to look 3D. Now if you look on the husks of the Cape gooseberries, they've got little patterns, like loads of little veins. So I just used Faber-Castell number 177, which is like a dark brown. So I added this gooseberry in the background. You can see it's not in the reference photograph, but I just felt like I needed a third rather than having two. It was just a little bit off. I wanted to add, I think the number 3 looks better, 3 gooseberries instead of 2. So in the back there, it's in shadow, so it can't be bright like the 2 that are literally in the direct light. So I had to use colors that were a little bit more desaturated, you know, more orangey browns, burnt orangey sorts of colors, orangey yellows. And then for the actual gooseberries themselves, I'm using a number of different yellows. Sennelier and again Unison do amazing range of yellows, really popping yellow oranges or more acidic sorts of yellows, and I used both, as well as like russety browny sort of colors for the shadow parts, especially on the gooseberry that you can see on the left. So this is the part of the painting where I do the highlights and I just go around making sure I'm happy with all the edges and the last little finishing touches. And I use the Art Spectrum highlights, soft pastels, for all the highlights because they just really do pop. But if you've enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe. And I shall see you in my next upload. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.